Directions. Said Abu Hanifa in Al-Fiqh al-Absat, كان الله تعالى ولا مكان، كان قبل أن يخلق الخلق، كان ولم يكن أين، كان ولم يكن أين ولا مكان ولا خلق ولا شيء، وهو خالق كل شيء. Allah was, and there was no place. He was before creating the creation. Was means existed. He was and there was no where, no creation, and no other thing. Yani, there was nowhere. There was no where means there was nowhere. And there was no creation and no other thing. And he is the creator of everything. In Isharatul Maram, Al-Bayadli, the Hanafi, explained. He said, in explaining what Abu Hanifa said. And what we did here in the translation is, so we translated Abu Hanifa's text here. And then we put his text in brackets, as you can see. So this is how Al-Bayadli explained Abu Hanifa's statement in Arabic, which we read his Arabic quote here. So Al-Bayadli took this Arabic quote, and of course he explained it in Arabic in his book. And he explained according to that style that you know, which is the merger style of explanation. To take a piece of the text you want to explain and then insert the explanation in between so that they run together like one sentence. Then it becomes a book inside of a book. So that's what he did. So what I did here was I translated that and I attempted to capture the merger explanation style in the translation. So that's why some of this is bold and in parentheses. Those are the words of Abu Hanifa, the translated words. And then everything else is Al-Bayadli's explanation. So he said, in explaining Abu Hanifa's words, so Allah was existing eternally, and there was no place. No place, which is the space occupied by a body. Then he adds, what's direction? He just said what place is. What's direction? He said direction is the name of the target of pointing. The name of the target of pointing. So point, what's your target? The target of your pointing. That's the direction. And direction is the trajectory of a moving object. I think that's clear. So both are only appropriate for bodies. Both place and direction. That's added there for clarity. Al-Bayadli said, so both are only appropriate for bodies and bodily things. Both means place and direction. It's valid to say direction is place. And it's valid to say direction is a particular place. And it's valid to say that a direction is a place compared to another place. Both place and direction are only appropriate for bodies and bodily things. So then it's not valid for Allah. Had he been in a place or a direction, that would necessitate them being uncreated and beginningless. So that would mean then there's something that he didn't create other than himself. Or else that would mean that's his attribute, the place or the direction. So that's all wrong. So what is meant by the one who exists by himself? Al-Qa'imu bi nafsihi, the self-existent one. In this context, is not the one who occupies a space by himself, but the one who is not in need of a room or a position to occupy altogether, yani. Meaning, you might use this word self-existent or self-standing. Standing here means existing. Independent standing, that means independent existence. You might use this term for something created, and you might use this term for the one who's not created. Al-Qa'imu bin nafs, the self-standing one, self-existing one. So when it refers to a created thing, it means the thing that has its own space, fills its own space. So you fill your own space, the person next to you fills his own space, the chair upon which you sit fills its own space, the floor upon which you stand fills its own space. So each one then is self-existent or self-standing. and this same word could be used for Allah, then it means the one who exists without a space. He exists without needing any space to occupy. He was before creating the creation. He was and there was nowhere. Nowhere means no place. Or else he would be a body. If he was somewhere, then he would be a body. There was no creation and no other thing. That means, that includes even darkness. There wasn't even any darkness. Therefore, he would not be inside the world because the Creator would not be inside created things. Nor would he be outside of them because he existed before the creations and before the existence of places and directions. And he is the Creator of everything. Thus, Ibn Taymiyyah's idea that the Arsh is eternal is invalid. That's Al-Bayadwi refuting Ibn Taymiyyah. As mentioned in the explanation of Al-Abudiyyah, what is mentioned here is a negation of the imagination, not a negation of reason. Reason will take you to the conclusion that God exists without a place. Imagination will sweep you away to that God is in a place, or else you wouldn't be able to imagine it. In Al-Asma'u was-Sifat, Al-Bayhaqi said, if there is nothing above him and there is nothing below him, then he would not be existing in a place. So Al-Bayhaq's quote is over. And we're still talking about directions. Here, this is what Al-Bayhaqi said concerning directions, one of his statements. If there's nothing above him and there's nothing below him, then he would not be existing in a place. Why Al-Bayhaqi said that? Because he was commenting on the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, وَأَنْتَ الظَّاهِرُ فَلَيْسَ فَوْقَكَ شَيْءٍ وَأَنْتَ الْبَاطِنُ فَلَيْسَ دُونَكَ شَيْءٍ. O Allah, you are al-Zahir and there is nothing above you, and you are al-Batin and there is nothing below you. This hadith contains rejection of the Jihawiyah, those who say Allah is in a direction. We said different names for different anthropomorphists and different God comparers in previous lessons. If he believes in God's direction, which there's no such thing, then he's called Jihawi. If he believes in God's voice, then he's called Soti. If he just believes in God's body, there's no body for God. He's called Mujassim. And there's other ones. We're talking here about the Jihawiyah, because we're talking about directions. The one who believes in God's direction. So a Wahhabi is a Jihawi. A Christian who believes God is in heaven, or a Jew, he's a Jihawi. And the Karramiyah or Jihawiyah, they have several fallacies that have been refuted by Abu Mu'in. I think it's Abu Ma'in. Abu Ma'in, I think that's Fatha. And Nasafi. So they claimed, if two things exist independently, it is a must that they be in a direction from each other. So this is what some Jihawis argued. They said if two things exist independently, it is a must that they be in a direction from each other. So right there, you have, inshaAllah ta'ala, already conceived right there the weakness of this one's mind who believes like this. Even though he presents himself as intelligent, it seems like this is some lofty talk here, and really, he's a clown. He says, if two things exist independently, it is a must that they be in a direction from each other. That's what he thinks about God and the creations. He's saying God exists independently, and we exist by virtue of filling our own space independently. So we must be in a direction from each other. He doesn't even realize that he's comparing God to the creations. They say, because this is what is witnessed in existence. So right there. What that really means is, because that's what we know about for the creations. So that's the weakness of their minds. We respond, concerning what is witnessed in created existence. So they're just going to say, this is what's witnessed in existence. They're not going to say in created existence. So we need to clarify for them. We say concerning what is witnessed in created existence. Each of the two independently existing things could be possibly above or below the other. Do you claim that possible for the Creator, since this is your position? You want to use created existence to confirm that Allah is in a direction, even though you're not calling it created, you're just calling it existence. So this existence that you're referring to, isn't it true that these two things in existence that you never witnessed other than their case, that according to you they're in a direction from each other because both of them are independently existing? So one of them is above the other. In your mind, God is the one who's above the other things. But according to what we witness in created existence, what is above something could be below it. If I have something in my right hand over the other thing in my left hand, I can just flip them. So then we say to that silly person, so do you claim that possible for the Creator? Fundamentally, he doesn't. If you know his creed and you know his way, then you know he believes that God is above us, and that means that God is greater than us because he's over us. So he doesn't believe that the Creator could be under us, although he believes that Allah comes down to the lowest sky, which would mean he's under whatever he passed on his way down. But they didn't think that far. They didn't connect those dots. So we say to them, do you claim that possible for the Creator? And the meaning of this question here is not to make him commit blasphemy. The meaning of this question here is to help him be guided. Hopefully, Yani, what you really hope is that when you say that to him, that he would say, oh, I see, I understand. I was wrong. Not so that he says blasphemy. But the question is yes or no. Do you claim that possible for the Creator? If they say yes, then they have left their own method, because they do not deem it possible for the Creator to be below the world. And if they say no, then they have debunked their own argument. If they say no, it's not possible for the Creator, then they debunk their own argument. If they say yes, it is possible for the Creator, then they have really left their own way. Yani, this question that we're posing to them is because of what we know about them. We know they don't believe that the Creator would be under the creation. They justify their contradiction by saying the only reason it is not valid for the Creator to be below the world is because below is the direction of deficiency and disparagement. So that's in their imaginary world. Below is not a direction of deficiency or disparagement. No direction is a direction of honor in the physical sense. And not in a physical sense. Being to the right of something or to the left of something is not honorable in and of itself. Being overhead or underfoot is not deficiency in and of itself. And the Creator, so they say the only reason it is not valid for the Creator to be below the world is because below is the direction of deficiency and disparagement. And the Creator is exalted from deficiency and disparagement. So what you have to say here is, no, that's not true. If you don't know how to argue this point, then what you're going to do, you're going to hop here. You're not going to know what to say here. So what you're going to do, instead of debunking this very last statement that he said, you're going to change your argument. Now, if he's as loose as you are, then he's going to follow you there, but now you're not going to get anywhere. You can't even stay focused yourself. But if he has some sense, then he's going to stick you there and he's going to tell you, no, no, you're changing now. You're changing the subject now. And he's going to be used to using that strategy that you're changing the subject. Because even when you're not changing the subject, when you ask him something he doesn't like, he's going to say, that's a different subject. That's something else. So don't change the subject. You have to answer him. He says, and it says here, they justify their contradiction. So contradiction is never justified. Contradictions are unjustifiable. He will justify his contradiction by saying the only reason it is not valid for the Creator to be below the world is because below is the direction of deficiency and disparagement. And the Creator is exalted from deficiency and disparagement. They are refuted by 2 points. Yani, we have to address this here. This new fallacy. Yani, what happened here? They started with a fallacy. They claimed, if two things exist independently, it is a must that they be in a direction from each other. That's fallacy right there. If you're not sharp, you won't even know how to deal with this fallacy. So then we answered this fallacy. But then after we answered his fallacy, he did what is normal for misguided people to do. Misguided people who aren't interested in the truth. So if you're interested in truth, means you need to always be ready to accept that you're wrong. You need to be always willing to say to the other person, you're right, even if you're arguing with him, even if he's the worst person you know, if he is right. So then instead of saying, you're right here, he said, no, Yani, to our answer that I'm skipping now because we read it. He would say, no, what you're saying doesn't apply here because below is the direction of deficiency and disparagement. So what that means is he's accepting the contradiction. He's saying basically, this contradiction has to be true because below is the direction of deficiency and disparagement. And the Creator is exalted from deficiency and disparagement. So they are refuted by 2 points. Yani, we have to answer this new fallacy. He went deeper into fallaciousness. So we say, you have just argued for differentiating between what is witnessed in existence and the Creator. Right now, you just made an argument for why the Creator is different from the creation. Yani, you just now argued for the difference between what's witnessed in existence and the Creator. Because what's witnessed in existence is that if two things are in a direction from each other, then one of them could be above the other or below. Their positions are interchangeable. That's what's witnessed in existence. And you started by using what's witnessed in existence as an evidence. So then when we told you, well, what's witnessed in existence is that if two things are in a direction from each other, then it's valid to interchange their positions, and one could be above the other or below the other. So then you said no. So why you said no? Well, right there when you said no means, what's witnessed in existence here doesn't apply. So you just debunked your own argument after using what is witnessed in existence as your argument for the attributes of the Creator. You do not deem it possible for the Creator to be below, though that is possible for what is witnessed in existence. And it here means in created existence, though. But now we're just using his words. You made that difference because of some evidence that you found that necessitates differentiation. You broke your own rule for some evidence that you found that required for you to break your rule, which is, you said, that evidence is the impossibility of ascribing to the Creator deficiency and disparagement. You said, since we have to clear the Creator from deficiency and disparagement, then we have to break the rule of using what's witnessed in existence about two things being in a direction from each other. So that means you're saying, well, let me tell you why the creator is different from the creations, though. So why do you not grant us differentiating between the creator and what is witnessed in existence? Why are you stopping us from differentiating between the creator and what is witnessed in existence? Although we have evidence for making a difference. Our evidence is that being in any direction necessitates being created. If you're in any direction whatsoever, it means you're created in the first place. So he has to not be in any direction. Being created is impossible for the eternal. Being in some interchangeable positions for things that are across from each other, are in directions from each other, that's not only valid for what's witnessed in existence, but in fact, it's necessary. Here's a footnote. The deviant people feel justified and entitled to contradict themselves. It's very true. The deviant people and the unjust people. The unjust people, though, who don't think that they're unjust. So they have some sense of entitlement. They feel that they are justified and entitled to contradict themselves. Yani, they can do what you can't do. Sometimes you must repeat yourself several times to make them understand that contradiction can never be acceptable. That's one thing. And number two, we also say, we do not grant the direction of below being a direction of deficiency and disparagement. So do you see how we unraveled what they said there? So let's back up. Their claim was if two things exist independently, then they must be in a direction from each other. So they're starting from a mistake. So we responded to them and said, then if that's the case, the creator could be below the world. Yani, if the case is what you are saying, the creator could be below the world. Do you accept? He's not going to accept. If he says yes, maybe he hopes you don't know what he really believes. Meaning his madhab. So unless he deviated from his madhab, then you still can get him. But right now what we're reading, supposing he has this madhab, which is usually their case. So it's not expected that he's going to say yes. But if he did, then means he left his own method. And if he says no, he's debunking his own argument. But he doesn't think he's debunking his own argument if he says no, because his mind is crippled. So he thinks that since in his own mind he has an answer to patch this contradiction. There's something broken here, but he can patch this break with some answer that he has. Really, the patch is faulty though. The break's never going to be patched. And the patch that he's putting there is that he's saying, no, it's okay in this case because the creator can't be below the world. That would mean that he's imperfect. So he went deeper into fallacy. He started with a mistake and then went deeper into mistake. So he has two mistakes here that need to be fixed. So we fixed the first one. We told him, why did he just debunk his own argument in the first place? And then two, we don't grant that the direction of below is a direction of disparagement. Now, if you want, you could just go right to two. Like, if he's not smart enough to understand number one here, you might say to yourself, I got to keep it simple for this guy. If I go there with this guy, I'm never going to get out of there. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about. So this one's easy enough. We do not grant the direction of below being a direction of deficiency and disparagement. There's no deficiency in it, in and of itself. It's just a position. It's just being somewhere only. Nor is there majesty and highness of place. How many guards are on a rooftop while the king is inside the house? The Jihawi says, two independently existing things only exist because each of them is in a direction from the other. So this is like his previous argument, just modified slightly. He's stuck here, so he's going to say it this way or this way. The Jihawi says two independently existing things only exist because each of them is in a direction from the other. Or each of them is in a direction from the other because they both exist. And what did he say previously? He said, if two things exist independently, they must be in a direction from each other. So he has a problem. We respond, had each been existing because each is in a direction from each other, this would mean that the existent one is in a direction. So he's going to say, yeah, exactly, that's what I'm telling you. But you say, hold on. This would mean the existent one is in a direction even if there wasn't anyone with him. You're basically saying that a thing couldn't exist if there wasn't something else. That's how much of a mushrik you are. So if that were the case, then Allah would eternally be in a direction. Because eternally he was independently existing. However, that is impossible because a direction is only confirmed by two. One direction is confirmed by two. Because a direction is confirmed by comparison. And comparison requires two. You confirm up by confirming down. And you confirm front by confirming back. A direction is confirmed by two. Is it not seen that there are only 6 directions? Above, below, front, behind, right, and left. And each individual direction would not be conceived but by comparison of two things. If this is the case, then making direction the condition for every independent existence. Making direction the condition for each and every independent existence. Although direction itself depends on two individuals. One direction depends on two things so that you can compare them. If direction is a condition for every independent existence, although mere existence and independence are confirmed by a single individual. Mere existence. Existence is confirmed by a single individual. Independence is confirmed by a single individual. Direction is confirmed by two, not by one. Making direction a condition for every independent existence is ignorance of reality. Because direction is only confirmed by more than one individual. It's very strong. If you have a question, go ahead, please. We furthermore refute them by saying, those two independently existing matters, are they in a direction from each other with a limit and an edge, or without a limit? Because there's no third option. So if they say, they're in a direction from each other without a limit. Each one has its own edge, and they're in a direction from each other, and there's no limit to that direction, to the distance, the space between them. If that's what they say, we do not grant that. We don't accept. And their claim of referring to what is witnessed in existence is invalid, because what is witnessed in existence has edges and limits. There's no way, there's nothing witnessed in existence that the distance between those two things is unlimited. And if they say they're in a direction from each other with a distance that has a limit, then we concede to that. We concede to that if there are two things in a direction from each other, then there's a limit between them. Okay, but we tell them, why would you claim that the Creator has a limit? We have already established the evidence that limits and boundaries are impossible for the Creator. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ